All right, guys, please make a lot of noise because it's Sunday. You're tired. Yeah, we have Daniel Roebuck.
Hello.
Hey, and Butch Patrick. Wow, come on, guys.
After you, my brother.
Oh, sure.
After you.
Age before beauty. Yay. Hey, everybody, thank you for coming.
Hello, how are you? Here.
Here.
I'm gonna split you guys up so I can get both of your attention, huh?
A rose between two thorns.
Oh, stop it, you. All right. So, happy Sunday. How was the con been, y'all?
Yeah, I'll use it. Okay. The con's great. I'm meeting a lot of nice people. I see a lot of the people I met right here. Maybe, Butch, maybe we got hit by a car on the way here because this is everyone we met. It's like you meet everyone you know when you're high.
I can do this without the microphone.
Yeah, we don't know.
Okay.
I use microphones. Yeah, you can hear us, right? Yep. The theater voice?
Yes.
Very good.
That'll be good. So thank you for having us. It's nice to see you.
Great to see you. I would love to know, gentlemen, your Munsters journey. How did you get involved in this franchise? Let's see, right?
Well, the black and white version here.
Yes.
64 to 66. It's funny, the Munsters was in the works, and the first choice for Eddie was actually Bill Mooney, who went on to do Will Robinson, and his mother wasn't crazy about the makeup regimen. I wasn't even living in Hollywood at the time. I had left town to go visit with my grandmother and spend some time in the Midwest, so I wasn't around for the interview process at all. And they hired a kid named Happy Durman who did the pilot, and then the network saw the pilot, greenlighted it for more episodes, but they said, we need a new mom and we need a new kid. And the new mom turned out to be Yvonne DiCarlo, which was a great addition to the cast. And I got to be the son. Mary Grady had them fly me in from Illinois for a screen test, and they said make arrangements to come to work the next week. So with my mom living on the East Coast with my stepdad, I lived with my uncle, and we hired a woman who came by every morning and drove me to work. So it was kind of a hectic schedule for a 11-year-old kid. But that's how I came to be Eddie Munster.
That's great. Now, I've known you for 25 years. I didn't know Billy Mooney. I didn't know. We all know poor Happy Durman.
Yeah.
But Happy Durman, like, have you seen Happy Durman? He's like, I'm Eddie. But that's not, everyone blames him. Obviously, he was directed that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like the kid was like, I'll do it my way.
This is my choice.
No, he was directed, and someone at a network was like, we can't have that. Because really, Eddie, for the boys, the young boys who watched it, Eddie was us. Right. I always thought, like, Eddie was, because my family was goofy. And I was embarrassed by my father and mother, and Eddie had the same problem.
Yeah, I was very, very lucky as a kid. You go on an interview and you read the script and you play it. I just played myself most of the time, and luckily my interpretation was what they were looking for. The trick is if it's not what they're looking for, then you got to take direction and you got to adapt to what the director wants. And luckily I could do that as well. But I was very lucky. I just played myself, and it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
He's a director. He understands.
What about me?
How did you get involved in this?
Well, I was walking down the street, and this guy said, "What's the capital of Bolivia?" And they hit me on the head. The next thing, I woke up in Budapest. I was in this
kidney
blue.
missing one.
Yeah, no, yes, one less kidney, and I was painted blue. So I don't know. One day, I was going to see my friend's wedding in Peoria, Illinois. Stephen, Dorinda, Christopher, and rented a car, and the call came in on the car, Rob Zombie, and you gotta, like, let's be honest, that's pretty cool, because he's a busy man. I don't know if you know, he's a rock star, and he's a movie director, and whatever he calls, it's something fun, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't know what it was, obviously, and we're driving, and he said, hey, I was just wondering, I'm doing a movie, and I think you'd be perfect for a part. Would you consider playing Grandpa Munster? I was like,
after he painted it.
What's a scene out of a movie? And I, my initial reaction was, if you're punking me, it would be very mean. Like, I was horrified. So Tammy, my wife, was wearing a Lily Munster shirt while I mean, it's unbelievable. The worst thing was, we couldn't tell anybody.
Yep.
So I went to this wedding with all my friends who collect Munsters, and it was like, I want to tell. And we couldn't tell anybody, and that was 3 years. It was July 19th, 2019, when we were definitely going. I sat my best buddy down, John Lamont, he was here with us if you met him the first day. And when I sat him down in a hotel, and he was a cop, so I said, you can't tell even your wife or daughter. And I told him, and he was like, he was crying, he was like, I can't believe it. So that's how it came to be. But if I could just say one other thing, since I was a boy, I was a clown magician. They come to my table and I'll show you a picture, it's ridiculous. I was a clown magician, but my clown name was the Count. And I was a vampire clown. I was in a circus, and then I did so I was the Count wearing makeup at 12, and I was the Count wearing makeup at 59. So what I really do like to say is God is good, and there's a way that he blesses you to know what your future might be when you're young. And I mean, good for Butch, like here we are, you know, and the future is what it was, you know what I mean? It's the same.
We know one of the great things about Danny, and like I say, we've been friends for a long time, but we also had a mutual friend named Kevin Burns, who was a movie producer, but beyond that, he was the world's biggest Munster collector, and he also was a very talented voice guy. He could imitate Al Lewis and Fred Gwynn like nobody's business. So when I found out that Daniel was going to be Grandpa the Count, I knew it was a perfect fit because number one, Rob's a great guy and Sherry Moon wonderful. And I haven't had the pleasure of knowing Jeff Daniels Phillips, but he did a great job. And having him as the Count in this cast was a perfect thing because I knew that they would be in good hands because of his association with Kevin Burns and Rob's love of the show. We had some really great things in there to make sure it worked right. So I'm very excited about it. I know it's going to be great. And when he told me what was going on and how well everything was going, and I couldn't tell anybody about it either. He had to go 3 years. I only had to go 6 months, knowing that I had done my little part, and I couldn't say anything because I was the last person that they revealed to be associated with it.
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing, but I can't wait to see the whole thing in its entirety.
I can't wait either. And I know it's been getting a lot of criticism. Of course, anything that gets remade, anything that's so beloved as things like the Munsters, gets a lot of criticism, right?
Yeah.
So what do you have to say to the people who are coming into this with a closed mind to be like, hey, chill, it's going to be fine, look at it like this, you know, because it's not going to be the same. Nothing is ever the same.
Yeah, well, I mean, I said in this video, so I have this kid, her name is Grace, and she's fabulous. And then one day you and the wife look at each other, and you know, it doesn't make any sense. Any of you who have kids 2 years apart, that meant when one was one, you said, let's do this again immediately. If you have them 2 years apart, which is stupid. But then the other kid comes and it's got the same DNA as the first kid, but it's a completely different kid. But it's born of the same love, right? So this is you may think I'm crazy. This is no different. It's got the same DNA of the first one, but it's different. So it would be like, you know, I had Grace and then people on the internet, you know, when Buster was like, when I showed like the sonogram and they said, Buster sucks. This movie sucks. This kid is gonna suck. He sucks. And it's like, I just showed you like a little picture. By the way, every sonogram looks like Boris Karloff. Did anybody ever notice that? It's weird. They're always like,
I think it looks like a jelly bean.
a jelly bean.
With little like tentacles.
Like Jerry, you got to see the baby.
Yeah, right. See the baby, right? But you know what I mean. So it's like, I don't know. Look, we're in this room and you guys are sharing this moment with us. So obviously you have an interest in this. I would just think that I think our society is ginning up anger more than, I don't know why people's first reaction is to be snarky and cruel, and why your first reaction isn't to be gracious and joyful. And that's not anybody in this room, obviously, because you're here. But I mean, my daily routine is I go around the internet And I say, great, fantastic, wonderful, marvelous, that's a blessing. I say that on everything because somebody has to.
Yeah. No, it's you know, and I see it, and people are just, they have to have an opinion, and it's usually negative.
Yeah.
And it's
when
like,
they haven't even seen it, by the
I know,
way.
it's
Like, wait.
It's entertainment, number one. It's not life and death. Number two, it's, if you're a Munsters fan, you're going to be impressed with what he's done, and if you're a Rob Zombie fan, you're going to be impressed with what he does. And you just save your opinion until be open-minded. But unfortunately, society is, like Daniel said, is people are just really, really negative on the world itself lately, and it bleeds over into other things, unfortunately.
I think that's actually like the best analogy ever when it comes to remakes, because any remake is going to get some sort of hate. And I think Robert Englund said it. He's like, I was in a version of the Phantom of the Opera, you know, and that started in the 20s, right?
Yep.
And how many times have they remade that for the newer generation?
Right.
If they never remade these movies, of course, we all love our certain versions, then we'd never be exposed to them.
Yeah, and it's not, by the way, the good news is it's not always about us. I see some young faces in here.
Yes.
How do we get the youngsters to love what we love? Look, I had my way of doing it. I would beat my children unless they watched the Munsters. You know, I mean, literally in my house, I swear to God, I'd say, come on, SpongeBob's on. And my son would say, I have homework. Do it later.
Wait, what?
I'm the worst parent. But they both turned out okay. I know some of you bust your socks. You know, everything turns out right. But how do we get the young generation to love what we love? We have to create it again. And you can't, their show is perfection. It was in black and white. Young people who aren't raised by people like us who are movie fans will not watch a black and white movie. They just won't do it. They just won't do it.
Yeah. And I've seen clips of it. I think it's going to be very entertaining. I love what he's done with it. I'm really happy with it. And not because he's a friend, and not because I'm in it. I watched it as soon as I went in to do my voiceover work. It was the first time I got to see an actual clip of where he was going with it and the texture. Now, Danny, he was over there. He did it. He's there. He knows how good it's going to be. I hadn't. So when I saw it, I came home. My sister goes, well. I go, this is going to be great. It's really going to be entertaining. And what he's done with it's fabulous. And honestly, the texture kind of reminded me a little bit of a sort of a Tim Burton-ish type of feel, which is really good too, with Rob's own personal spin on it. And I love what Sherry Moon did with Lily.
She's terrific. Nobody works harder than you guys.
Yeah.
Nobody, let's say this, I can tell you, nobody works harder than Sherry Moon. I wish that the only actors that I drive around here, by the way, and the guys who are standing there with the $300 tennis shoes trying to get your money at the red light, their commitment to acting is much greater than like they stand out there and they're, you know, and you're like, I feel really bad for you if I didn't know you were standing in shoes that I can't afford.
Right.
But Sherry works that thing she's so, when you see, it's such a joyful thing. And now you know, by the way, like Herman is brand new. Why doesn't he have Fred Gwynne's voice? Because he's new. He's a kid, essentially. He's a teenager. And Lily also is like a teenager in the movie. She's only 150, but you know what they say, that's the new 100. I'm the only old guy in the movie. I think I'm 450 years old in the movie when it starts. So, you know, their interpretation, nobody could be them. They were perfect. Nobody could be them, but we are perfect for this version of the Munsters. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I love the way he's promoting it as a love story.
Yeah.
The greatest love story ever told. That's a good one.
It is though.
Because they were, when you look at Herman and Lily on the old show. I mean, they were madly in love with each other.
Yeah.
They'd been married forever,
Yeah.
and it was all about a
Good family
a
unit.
functioning family with sure little odds and ends went wrong here and there, and Grandpa's in the dungeon. But literally, at the end of the day, Herman and Lily were passionately in love with each other.
Yeah.
And the joy of the show is, like, the relationships are, sometimes Eddie's proud of his dad, sometimes Eddie's embarrassed by his dad.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It was like all of us, we all wanted, I think many of my friends wanted wanted Andy of Mayberry to be their father. Now, Danny, I know you didn't make your bed today. Now, Aunt B works hard, oh, hard. No, but my dad was like, oh, goody, we're going to the amusement park. That was my dad. And you'd be like, kid, stop acting like that in front of my friends, So, but, in their relationships, Grandpa and Herman in one episode were, painting the line down the middle of the house, which you always wanted to do to your own brother or sister. And in the next episode, they were scheming together.
Yeah, they were. I tell people, Fred and Al were like a really world-class comedy team. They were very, very good, very underrated. The shticks that they would get into, and I remember one of the episodes that was my favorite was when Grandpa is reading off what this philanderer looks like, and Fred's a fine artist, and he's drawing him, and he goes, "Wait a minute, what?" And he looks like, "What?" He goes, "Nothing." And he draws a little bit more, and he goes, "What?" He goes, "Nothing." And he goes, "Herod, you draw it yourself." And he goes, No, this man's a philanderer.
Plastic nose.
Oh no, it was just about the two of them just doing this little one-off, like this little bit together. They were hilarious, and a very underrated comedy crew. Team.
And we hosted the Pet Cemetery panel here yesterday afternoon, and we talked about the greatness that was, like the immense talent that man had.
Oh yes,
right, and honestly, he's the main reason I think a lot of us really love Pet Cemetery, the original, because he really makes that movie. If you ever read the book, he was what Stephen King wrote. He really, really was.
Well, he was such an actor of such depth that he could do that. The character with a voice. Who played that role in the remake?
John Lithgow.
Oh, well, that's
a great.
Yeah, that's a pretty good choice.
Amazingly talented actor.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people didn't feel that he was just quite right.
Well, we've seen John Lithgow be sophisticated.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, this is a thing when you're a character actor. We've seen Lithgow be the sophisticated guy so much that remembering the depth of it. And Fred, the sophisticated stuff he was on stage. He played Lincoln on stage, he did Big Daddy on stage, so people, if you didn't see the stage work. But he only played the sophisticated characters later in life, like in that one where he was a Wall Street guy.
That was on The Secret of My Success.
Secret of My Success.
Oh, that was a good
Then he played, but.
And he did Frenchie and Cotton Club.
Oh yeah, that was pretty.
That was a good
Raising
one.
Cain or Killing a...
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about.
Lithgow was Raising Cain.
Yeah,
Well, we're
thank
talking
you.
about Frank.
Right.
But I'm just saying, for an actor, like, I'm lucky because I'm sophisticated in one thing, I'm grandpa in another thing.
Yeah.
I'm the killer in this, I try to confuse people with who I really am.
Well, that's the best way not to get typecast, unfortunately. Like Fred.
Oh, Fred was a Renaissance man. When he wasn't on camera, he was playing the guitar back at the makeup table, or he was sketching, or he did, like I said, he did theater. He could sculpt. He was a Harvard hasty pudding
Yeah,
guy.
he was from Harvard.
Yeah, Harvard, and drove a Volkswagen around Maryland. He was very unassuming. He was a character. He really was a character.
Kevin Burns did great bios of Fred and Yvonne and Al Lewis, and you can find them, I'm sure, online.
They're actually on the DVD that I sell at my table, which is with me and Rob Zombie doing commentary. The new Blu-ray actually has all the biographies and the movies and the commentary. Not that I'm pushing it, but it is on the table.
And it's right there at the table where you could get it signed by Butch Patrick. And we should mention, you can also ride in the Munsters.
Oh yeah, yes.
If you want to, you can sign up for
Sunday special. There you go. We went for a little spin ourselves the last couple days.
Yeah, I did that video's online if you want to see it. We gassed it up.
Yep.
I was like, can I gas it up? He's like, get out, stop touching it.
and then I ducked a tornado yesterday with Bill Mosley.
Yeah.
We went out for coffee in the morning in the coach, and we thought a tornado was touching down. It was like the street lights were like this, and trash cans were zipping by.
And I wondered why. I opened my hotel window and I saw and Bill was on a little place. I remember that. I didn't know what that was, but now I remember it.
Bill's from Illinois. He should be used to it.
Yeah.
You're a little hot, too.
Question over there.
Yeah.
Questions?
Oh, Chicago.
Awesome. Anyone else from Chicago? It's not that far. Just me and her. Okay. Well, we're representing Jordan. All right. Audience questions. Do we have any? There we go.
How much research did you do for the play Grandpa, and how did you, once you did research, did you have your own interpretation of it, or did you work with Rob Zombie in terms of your own spin on playing Grandpa? How
So
did that all
the
work
amount of
out?
research I did to play Grandpa, let's say it started when I was 12.
Right.
Count magic.
Yeah, so 40, even Daniel Day-Lewis, Mr. A Year to Play Lincoln, I did 47 years. Take that, Daniel Day-Lewis. I love Daniel Day-Lewis took a year to do Lincoln. This is what he came up with. I'm Abraham Lincoln. I just did that in like a half a second. Why all the Sturm and Drang, whatever that is. Look, Al Lewis, who I knew, not as well as I know, as well as we know each other, Butch and I. But I did a movie with Fred, and I knew Al, so I like spend time with these guys. Al and I are kind of from the same part of the country, so like step one, I wasn't like this guy, and then I had to become Grandpa Munster. Like we talk kind of the same. We are the same size. Everybody thinks he's small, but he was 6'1", and he was wide-shouldered like me. I know that because I put one of his tuxedos on when they auctioned it at Heritage, and it fit just fine.
Wow.
Yeah, people don't know that. And
No, but how did Dad feel to wear that?
oh yeah,
for a
I was
second?
like, I got to put it on, and the guy goes, do it quick. We put it on, and then he said, please don't post any pictures. I guess I can now because somebody else bought it. So and then Rob, yes, Rob's the real director. He's not whatever, I threw what we were doing, and we rehearsed quite a bit when we got to Budapest. We rehearsed for almost a month, so we all had it down. So there's no surprises in the movie. We had makeup tests, and they're building the sets and everything. It was something, and we lived together the entire time we were making the movie, by the way. So we were all, because of COVID, in one hotel that looked more like that house that Liam Neeson goes into, and he says, read this, and the guy goes, good luck, and then he kills them all. That's what it looked like from the outside. So when we were going the first day, I was like, nobody say good luck in any language but in English. So we spent a lot of time, but but I think I was born for this moment, and this is what God planned for me all along. So I was ready to go. Thank you for asking.
And keep in mind that one of the things about this, they did this in secrecy during the middle of COVID. I mean, that in itself, I mean, movies are tough to make under the best circumstances. Add that into it, and he was showing me pictures of the makeup women. The poor makeup people looked like they were in full hazmat suits or getting ready for a launch, going into space, and yet they're trying to do makeup, and they did it very well. But imagine all the problems, the problematic things that could have come into play, including the COVID thing. It's amazing that they pulled it off in secrecy.
And Rob is the master of the secrecy. You have to honor it when that's what the boss says.
Question?
All right. So Rob Zombie's character on stage as a rock star is very intense and awesome, but his fans know that he loves campy movies as well as regular horror movies. How is he as a director? Is he intense to work with, or is it a very fun atmosphere? Like, what is it like?
It's a very fun atmosphere, and I'll tell you, this is something you should know. Not just horror movies. He knows every movie. Like he and Sherry will watch a Greta Garbo movie one night, and they'll watch a great Jacques Tate. Is that like he knows all movies? So he knows all genres. I've done 7 or 8 movies with him. We laugh all the time. So it's a joyful experience. But he's the kind of guy. Did you ever work with Walt Disney? And I don't know.
Yeah.
On which show?
Well, I did a couple of World of Colors. I mean, I didn't work with him. I worked at Disney
But
Studios.
did he come by and watch?
No, I only met Walt once when I was like 7 years old, and that was just as an opening for the World of Color thing. What do you think, little Billy? Oh, I think it's great, Mr. Disney.
Well, you met him.
Oh, I met him.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you win. That's like in any conversation when someone's like, I go to Disneyland, and Butch goes, well, when Walt turned to me and he said, how'd you like, and the other like,
When Mickey had me put my hands in cement.
yeah. That's like some guy talking about space travel and the guy being like, well, when I was on the moon, and I was looking back, and you're like, but Walt Disney had a reputation of being able to look at a frame and go, he'd say, hang a weenie over there, and what that meant was, your frame is not, it's not artistically finished. So that's Rob's eye too. He would be looking at something and go, hold on, and then they go, and if Rob, I've been on sets where he takes the paint and he goes and paints something in the corner. So he's got an eye for every part of the frame. That's what, it hurt my heart. By the way, we had a great DP, Zoran Popovic. We had a great DP when people were like, the movie looks like whatever. It was like, are you kidding me? Every frame of this movie is exactly what it's supposed to be.
Right.
There's no mistake. The color, the intense color, it's supposed to look like a Basil Gogos painting. Anybody here likes famous monsters knows Basil Gogos. So anyway, that's kind of director. Yes, sir.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
from your question. Is Rob like a Clint Eastwood, super efficient and gets it handled and
Yes.
moves on,
Yes.
as opposed to hits it over and over like a Kubrick 119
Right.
takes?
Right.
Yeah, no, very efficient.
Yeah.
And we didn't have time to not be efficient,
Right.
which is one of the reasons we rehearse so much.
Right.
But yeah,
It's like a play at this point.
Yeah, we get it. We get it, and then we would move on. There's a lot that didn't make it into the movie, so I'm curious.
Always, right?
Yeah, I'm curious to see if there's an extended cut at some point.
Oh, there always will be.
Yeah,
At least
yeah,
on,
with Rob, yeah.
right, well, you know, with his stuff, there always is, except it's normally like the unrated extra gory cut, so
Oh.
that's a little different, but I
Well,
would love to see the extended.
What's great about him, just by the way, last comment about him as a filmmaker, he's a filmmaker.
Yeah.
So, like, Butch was kind to say, I'm a director and a writer and a director. There's a point where you watch something that you love and you go, oh, that's off story. It's
Yeah.
not,
It's not canon.
I'd rather move the thing along, so you cut the thing, or if, you see a lot of lower budget movies or inexperienced filmmakers, the characters will say the same thing 6 times.
Yeah.
You only say it once. So, and then you might not, even when you wrote the script and shot it, you might not go, oh wait, that's the same exact information rephrased. So you cut it. So he's really good at efficiently cutting to the story.
Awesome. Gentlemen, in the back.
The original series only has about 70 episodes, and then they did another version of it in the 90s, and of course you're doing a new version now. Why do you think it still resonates? Why are people still excited? You know, not just for the original version, but the version that was done in the 90s, and now they're pretty excited about this new version. Why are people still excited about it?
I couldn't hear him. Too
They're
many
so
to read.
excited of how the Munsters is remade consistently for 60 years. Why is that?
Well, a couple things. Number one, Hollywood is very famous for just taking the easy way out. Instead of getting creative and making new stuff, they'll go to the well often. They do. Number two is it's a very marketable franchise from toys and in ratings, and it's kind of always there. Monsters are very popular, so it's kind of a stretch from the monster genre to the Munsters and be remade. But mostly it's just a matter of Hollywood just does remakes. Kind of a safe bet to do something. You get people, I don't really understand I'll give you an example. Kevin Burns, who we spoke about earlier, I was in his office one day, and I saw a whole wall of scripts against the wall. And it's, like a lot of them. And I go, what's with all the scripts? And he goes, oh, those are all the rejects. And I go, all your script readers have read these? And they said, no. And he goes, yeah. I go, well, where's the yes scripts? And he opens a drawer and he's got about 6 of them. And I go, why is that? He goes, because people keep their jobs in Hollywood saying no to everything. Because they don't want to risk reading a script, getting it greenlit, and it fails, and then they're out of a job. So basically, what's supposed to be a creative industry is really run by non-creative people,
Right.
which astounded me. So to answer your question, the Munsters was popular, so they keep going to things that have already been proven to be popular, as opposed to testing out something new. At least that's how I understand it.
No, I think you're right on. I remember when they made Tim Burton's Batman. I read a lot about this stuff. I read a lot, and they said that Batman symbol was recognized by 99% of the American population. That they would show it to anybody and someone would say Batman. right? And it was just a bat in a yellow circle, and everyone knew it. So Munsters is kind of the same. It's a known entity. You know, nobody. I don't know. I mean, I'm only privy to this information because of how close I was to it. But you know, people should. You know, Universal was ready to make like a direct-to-video version of the Munsters, where the character of Eddie, it was going to be a kids movie. So it was Eddie, and there was a sliding board coming out of the top of the house to the bottom of the house. I mean, it sounds like really a terrible idea. Well, just because, you know, they were just going to make a kids movie where one of the kids was Eddie Munster.
Right.
So all the other characters would have been peripheral. Rob saved it by saying, you know, finally getting his, and he pitched it 20 years ago. He pitched it right after House of a Thousand Corpses. So that's how long ago, and the story's evolved over the years.
We don't, it's funny you mentioned the Batman logo, and 99% of the people know it. Well, people will say to me, do you ever get recognized in airports or whatever? I go, no, not really, and that's fine. I go, but I tell you what will get recognized. You put that Eddie Munster face on a shirt, everybody knows that character. He's actually wound up in the face of Eddie Munster's wound up in dictionaries underneath Widow's Peak definition. They show a picture of as an example. So that logo and that, I tell people, I go, I wish I could, you know, figure out a way to take this image and run with it, because the whole world knows the character. They don't know me from Adam, which is fine. And then when I say I used to be, then they'll say, oh, I see the resemblance now. But right off the bat, everybody knows that, but nobody knows me, and that's the way I like it.
They don't know you from Eddie.
They don't know me from Eddie.
Hey, can I ask a question? So, Mike Westmore did your makeup specifically.
Yes.
Were you fully wigged, or was it just a widow's peak in the front of your hair?
The first scene, if you look at the first scene of where the love comes to Mockingbird Lane or something, I can't remember what it was, but they put a potion in, and I come running home with a bunch of little girls chasing me. And this was the one where Herman, the mailman, falls in love with Lily, and next door neighbor Yo-Yo falls in love with Herman. But anyways, it has to do with a magic potion for love that Grandpa puts into our oatmeal. That is the only scene you'll see me without a widow's peak. And they stopped immediately, and they go, "This isn't working. He doesn't look like the offspring of Herman and Lily." And Mike Westmore then ran up, and they put eyebrows on me, and they gave me a widow's peak to monster me up a tad. And
was it a wig piece? Or
it was a hair piece that was glued on every morning.
Just on the front?
Just the triangle and then long strands.
Yeah, that blended in.
And they put on the big bushy eyebrows, but there was only one scene that was made it to film, and it's from a distance, so you really can't tell what's going on. And then Mike Westmore, he also created the Woof Woof. We had a Woof Woof doll that had a wooden face, wasn't very lifelike, and he ran up to the lab one night and showed up the next day with a very looking Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of
it's like
face. He looked like who was Dr. Jekyll? Frederick March.
It looks like Frederick March, but it kind of looks like Wolf kind of looks like the Abbott and Costello meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which they probably in 1964 would have had a copy of that face in their lab, and he could have just looked at that and done it. Maybe.
That was one of my greatest joys. I was the first. Mike was still an apprentice. For his Uncle Bud was running the studio, and Perce Westmore was doing Al Lewis, but Mike, I was his first ward, or his first whatever you want to call it, out of the gate when he started his makeup career, which is, he's like one of the best of the best. Yeah. And he's a very dear friend still, so I was very lucky to be able to hang an hour every morning with Mike Westmore. Yeah,
he said that his job was pouring up the Herman heads.
Yeah.
And
then he did Beverly Owen.
Beverly Owen he did, and then you.
My ears.
He had to do the Herman head and the Eddie ears every day.
That was his
That's
deal.
what he had to do before he went home at night.
Any other questions? Yes, sir?
I got one.
Oh,
They can go ahead.
we have time for both.
Was there anything off the set that you guys kept, and if not, was there something, what would it have been?
That we kept?
Yeah, anything that
Well,
you kept
I
on set?
used to bring home Herman. They were supposed to be destroyed before, and they weren't supposed to leave the studio lot, but I would sneak Herman head pieces off and Eddie ears, but I would bring them home and give them to kids in the neighborhood. Because everybody was always, Eddie Munster lives there, and to this day my mom will answer the door occasionally, and there'll be somebody to say, "Does Eddie Munster live here?" We've owned the house since 1962. But
He's grown now.
But the most interesting thing was we had a prop man named Eddie Keyes, And Eddie Keyes, when he was on our show, was about 85 years old. Anyway, he was a very old guy. And I was out doing an Ironside probably 7 years after the end of the show. And Eddie Keyes not only was alive, he shows up and he goes, hold on, I got something for you. And he basically gave me the Woof Woof doll that he had kept in his prop box for the last 8 years. And he gave it to me, and unfortunately, I didn't take very good care of him, and he sort of deteriorated. But I wound up with Woof Woof, yes.
Wow. Anything that you kept from the set, or?
I may have.
You can't talk about? Got it. Okay,
No,
that's a yes.
I can talk. No. I tried to get the costume in my contract, and Universal said no.
Oh.
So about a week before we were gone, I said to Mike Elliott, the producer, I said, either I'm stealing that, or either you're giving that to me, or the flight attendant's going to say, Mr. Roebuck, may I hang up your cape? Because I was wearing it home. But I grabbed. I have my full costume. There was two, but I grabbed the key one, and then there was a head that was the makeup, like the pattern, the makeup pattern, and our makeup ladies. I had these two beautiful ladies working on me every day, and we had so much fun. And I said, one day I go, do you have a bag of some sort? And she goes, yeah. I said, put that in the bag and put it in my trailer. So it wasn't there the last day, because I had already taken it home. I think you can see it. I do sometimes videos in front of my Munsters stuff, and you can see it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's cool. We've never met before, Brian. Sir.
Was there much ad-libbing in your insulting of Herman, or?
Or no, but Rob's good. He's a great director in that if you can turn a phrase in a different way, that's, he's definitely open to hearing that stuff. So I don't think ad-libbing, I'm very much on script in the movie, but every now and again I might have said, may I say this instead of this, but I would do that on any
Right.
movie.
You'd ask, yeah.
Yeah, you asked. When
Right.
we were shooting Getting Grace, which is available at my table on DVD, a wonderful movie, the first movie. It's only wonderful because of the actors. I'm not
It
playing.
is a great movie.
Thank you. But the actress, who was my friend of 30 years, said, in this speech, there's, could I change it? And I was like, Marcia, and it's a very intense scene in a hospice. The daughter's dying, we're talking. And I said, of course, Marcia, whatever. She said, whatever, it's great for you. And she goes, because there's too many yous in it. And I said, I already said you could change it. There's no reason to insult the writer who's standing right here. Yeah, you trust your actors to plus your work, and then you take all the credit. I mean, that's just the genius of being a director.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's
You're
mine.
like,
I wrote that.
I wrote that. I told him to do that.
Yeah, I told him to do that. One of the in The Fugitive, what they don't know, people like everything we say in The Fugitive. If you like that movie,
Yes.
everything the marshals say, every single thing is ad-libbed, memorialized, and then shot. So we would improv it all. The only thing my character says, it's literally in the script, is this is hinky. That's the only thing I say. So that's quoted, but everybody always comes up to me and says, they love that line, if they can dye the river green today, why can't they dye it blue the other 364 days of the year? And that was because we had this long walk that we had to fill in. So you need an actor who could fill that space in character. So there may have been some of that in the Munsters.
Yeah. I was going to actually ask you about The Fugitive. I want to know, do you have any fun stories from filming that one? What was that like?
Well,
Or not fun, either way.
Yeah. No, it was a great time. I mean, look, you guys, if you know me, I'm a fan. I'm not like a thespian actor who did Shakespeare and then, deigned to load my talents to the cinematic world. I wanted to be in movies and on TV. And so when, there was a night when we were shooting. Have you all seen The Fugitive? Do you know The Fugitive? Yes?
Oh, guys.
Anybody? So there's a fight at the hotel. We're in that hotel for weeks. And one day at about 4 o'clock in the morning, I was waiting on the camera cases with the lenses. You're not supposed to sit on it, but if you're one of the stars of the movie, you're allowed to do anything. So I was sitting on one, and Harrison was sitting on one, or Butch is. And we were just sitting there, kind of relaxing, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, and I said, I don't know what to say to you. And Harrison Ford goes, I understand. Like, what are you like? Was it cold on Tatooine? Like, what are you gonna say? That's not gonna humiliate yourself.
Right.
I love Han Solo. Like, it was just. You guys go to my social media. I went to where they filmed the train wreck 2 months ago, and you might see that I have many scars. I'm in the video. I'm like, this is very treacherous. This is very. You got to be careful. And then right after I shot it, I fell 9 feet onto my head. And then you see the rest of the video, like I was so hell-bent on doing it. The blood's coming into my eyes. While I'm like, this is where the train, I mean, I'm bleeding to death. So go to my social media, follow it anyway, but go back a few weeks.
You know, on his Harrison Ford thing, I have some of them similar. We get starstruck too. I fanboy out. I'm at a show 20 years ago, and Carrie Fisher was going to be there, and I never met Carrie Fisher, and I was really looking forward to meeting her. So I go, do you know anybody know where Carrie Fisher is? Yeah, she's out in front having a cigarette. I see her out there. It's real cold. She got this big coat on, so I walk up behind her and I go, Miss Fisher. She looks at her. She goes, I got you in my pocket. She reaches in her pocket. She's got a little Eddie Munsters all. She's like, can you sign this for me?
Come on!
Oh my God! I was so like, truth? We became instant friends. Princess Leia loves the Munsters.
It's like, you know me.
Yeah, I know. I got you in my pocket.
That's so hilarious.
Excuse me.
Pardon me.
You're like, whatever you say.
Ever since then, we're buddies.
Oh.
That's such a nice.
She was a sweet person.
Yeah. Awesome. Any more questions out here? Anyone at all? Yes.
Shout.
Munster, go home. It's like, love it. Well, how was that experience different than working on the TV show? Was it a good experience?
I missed it.
Was the Munsters go? Oh, I'm sorry, it's your job.
I would
you.
go away. I used to hang out at
Dan.
the drag strip a lot as a kid without earplugs.
How was Munsters Go Home? Now I forgot the question, dude.
What?
Because him.
Was it
Go
different
ahead.
than working on
Yes.
Was it different than working on the regular Munsters, and did you like it?
Yeah, the Munsters, we had a 3-day, basically a week shooting schedule, 3 days in makeup, and it was shot. TV shows are shot much differently than features. Anyway, they just have a different structure. And the interesting thing about Munster Go Home, which I was very surrealistic, because very, very, very rarely will you ever have the last scene of a movie be the last scene before the wrap. It just really doesn't ever happen.
Yeah, I know in my life 3 times.
Yeah, very, very rare. So what just so happened, the most surreal thing that happened was the show's over. We know that they're making the movie to show the world. This is how we're going to sell syndication. And the last night at about 11 p.m. at night for a 12-year-old kid, which is pretty late, we soak down the street. We walk out. We jump on the Munster coach, and we drive away into the night. And then you turn around and they go, "That's it. That's a wrap." And everybody just splintered. They just all go. Fred goes back to L.A. Fred goes back to New York, and Al goes with him, and Yvonne does this. And it was very surreal because, even though it had only been a 2-year show, you grow very, very close because we were such a family unit. And that was kind of an interesting thing for Munster Go Home. And it was done differently as a feature in color. But the thing I remember most was that last shot of an era. And here we are, 58 years later, talking about it. Who would have thought?
Yeah. The incredible thing about, as you said, the shows of that era was, you said it was a 2-year show. 70, how many episodes?
70.
70, was it 70 even? I'm not sure. 70 episodes in 2 years? Like, that's a lot, right?
Yeah, they don't do it like that anymore.
No,
Yeah.
now you're lucky to get 12.
Well, it's a different. Yeah, like Matlock's, we would shoot 20, and then they would do a clip show to make 21. That's generally what it was. But yeah, TV's changed so much. Like when they did the Munsters, it was rehearsing 2 days, out of makeup costume, rehearsing.
Right, we read Monday and rehearse Tuesday. Yeah.
Right, blocking Tuesday, shooting Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever, however. And that's how they did the Andy Griffith Show too.
Well, another thing, the question was making the remakes over and over and over. The Munsters was done in a different world. We were done on film. Single Dolly Crab, Mitchell, you know, it was done like a mini movie, the structure was different, and I think maybe every 10 or 15 years, technology changes maybe, and people think they can redo it, and there's a market for it the way they want to do it today, and in another 20 years they do it again. I mean, the Munsters today is a series. Lloyd Schwartz, who is Sherwood Schwartz's son, did that for the Arthur Company, and it was, you know, it ran 3 years, people liked it, they had been introduced to it in color, kids, new marketplace, but it was done differently, so I think a lot of times people just, you know, when you see something done in whatever decade, it's being done because technology advances and everybody just thinks there's a new generation that's ready for a successful reboot, things like they like to call it.
Yeah, and that was a 3-camera show. Do you know, I auditioned for that show. I don't remember the character, and I auditioned to play Herman in Munsters' Scary Christmas. So I didn't audition for Rob, but I auditioned for the Munsters.
The Sam McMurray got it.
Yeah, Sam McMurray got it. Sam McMurray got it.
That was an Australian shoot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they made a lot of remakes, but I think this the one coming out, the Rob's is gonna be the go-to one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. We gotta let these guys get back to their
Thank
table.
you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we have a lot of good stuff at the table, and you can ride the Munsters coach. I did it the other day, it's worth it.
Get the count and drive it.
I'm gonna